It's time for another data miner kata.
Boom! That's right, we're bringing the thunder. We're back with another exciting kata. I have here next to me Wart.
Yes, that's
right?
correct.
Wart, and you have got something very awesome to show us. But before we get into that, I want to know about you. So, who are you and what do you do here at Skyline?
Okay, my name is Wart. I am a DevOps engineer at Skyline.
Okay.
And I work in the data exploration domain.
Yes.
So our domain is responsible for providing the user with tools to explore, consume data. Think about the dashboards app, low-code apps,
yes.
and GUI.
Yes.
So
you've been a fan favorite in the show. At least your domain has been.
Yeah.
We've gotten a lot of interesting things to do with low-code apps, how to make them. And the topic of today is going to be further enhancing that knowledge.
Indeed.
It's data grid layout.
It's a very new layout. It's very new visualization we have recently added to dashboards and low-code apps.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm a big fan of that new one,
So,
visualization.
I can tell you're already
Yes.
hyped to actually show it off to
hyped to
everyone.
show it off,
So
indeed.
yeah, I mean, let's jump into it. Any prerequisites?
Yes, so the visualization is very new, so it's only available in 10.4.1.
10.4.1,
So
okay.
everyone following along with a DAS, or
Yes.
maybe people that haven't not yet a DAS system.
Maybe a staging setup that they can
Indeed.
update, make sure
Yes.
they get the latest versions.
And they can use a web-only upgrade if they want to, so that they only upgrade to the web applications. For example,
Okay.
to have that 10.4.1 to
Okay.
be able to use that grid layout.
Perfect, okay.
So that's, I think, the only prerequisite, except for another one.
Okay.
We need the data, of course. We need data to do our exercise.
Yes.
And for everyone that wants to follow along, they can install a package which will contain the data we will use in the exercise.
Right, so through the catalog again.
Through the catalog.
For everyone, it should not be a very new thing to do this. So if you, I believe, go to catalog.
If you go to catalog
Data
data miner services,
indeed.
and you look for table showcase app, or I can just show it. Table.
Table showcase app.
All right, showcase app. And there you go. If you click deploy and select the right system, you are good to go.
Perfect.
To follow this exercise.
Yep. Excellent.
Okay. So yeah, the grid layout, the grid visualization, it's a very new one. And as the word says itself, it is a grid layout. So
Yes.
you can visualize your data in the form of a grid.
Yes.
And so let me maybe show you some use cases. Why would you, or when could you possibly use that visualization? For example, on ZDev, we have some very cool ones. So this is a penalty box.
Okay.
And this is basically the grid visualization in action. And so each service is represented as a block in the grid.
Right.
And so
With the moving, even moving images, moving videos in there, yeah.
indeed, these are video HTML tags. So everything can be configured. We will see it in this exercise, how you can really configure or style your little block. So each data item, in this case, these are services, are represented by blocks in the grid, and you have full control on how you want to style it, how you want to position everything. This is a use case. Another cool app from zine.skyline.be is this one. It's an event administration app.
And then the next 5 events there.
Indeed, so they create a UI where they show the next 5 events, also using the grid visualization.
Okay.
And then maybe one of my favorites, it's an app from MediaOps. It's the control surface. So it's an app with button panels where they can
I recognize something, yeah, connecting video signals and output audio, stuff like that.
Indeed. And this is full of grid visualizations.
Yes.
So you can see on top all these grid visuals. So just to give you some idea of what can be done, what can be created with the grid.
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, interesting.
So yeah, that's what we are going to explore today.
Okay, let's have a look. I think you have a simpler example for us than
we have a little bit of a simpler example, but you will see
whole NOC setup. It's like
indeed, we will have a more a bit simpler example, but you will see within no time we will be able to set this up. It's it should be very easy to do. So let's see if that's the case.
Well, let's see. Yeah.
So for this exercise, I will just create a new app. You could also do the same in the dashboards app, but just we are used to creating apps, I think, with this kata session. So let's just create a new one. Let's create kata demo. I won't go too much in detail about icons, coloring. I'll
Yeah,
just keep the defaults.
We've seen
Yeah.
quite some. Seba has been very enthusiastically showing us
Yeah.
all the icons and layouts and colors. So
Okay.
we're
so,
good.
So you might already be quite familiar with this UI. So on the left you have all these visualizations, and as you can see we have a new indication right here. So this is our
Okay.
new visualization showing the grid basically.
Yeah,
so
the grid layout.
if we drag and drop it on our app dashboard page, you will see this is our component. Of course, we need to provide data to it, otherwise it doesn't really know what it should visualize. So if you click this little button, it will indicate what data types are compatible with this visualization. And of course, it will use GQI as data provider for the visualization.
Right, so a GQI query to actually feed in
Yes,
the data or
indeed.
to get the data in
Indeed,
there.
GQI will provide data. So we will need to
Yes.
create a new query, a GQI query. And in our case, the exercise will be about orders. We have a data set configured by installing that package from the catalog. A data set is added to your data miner system containing some orders. Just for the purpose of this exercise, we
Okay.
can use it. So I will just call my query orders,
Okay.
and we will select data source. So it will be ad hoc data, and there we can select the data source. We will use the JSON reader,
Right.
and we will specify the orders.json file. So this should be available.
So it's an ad hoc data source that you
Yeah.
added with that package.
Yes, indeed. It's an ad hoc data source that also lets you read in JSON files, and that package contains an orders.json, which means we
okay.
can then consume it. So it's,
Right, so kind of importing a JSON.
yeah, it's parsing that JSON and putting it into GQI, which can then be provided to us to consume in the application.
Okay.
So I'm just going to select this, and maybe before I add it to the grid visualization, I will show it in a table so you get an idea about what is that data actually.
Yeah, what's in there indeed. yeah.
What's in there, what columns and so on, what information does it provide. So as you can see in this table, we have orders.
Yes.
Each has an ID, has a customer, has a fulfillment, total amount of value, the status, and so on. So a little bit of information about each order.
Right, but it's specifically about the orders. There's nothing specific in there to be able to make it into such a grid layout.
No,
that's
it is-
not in there. The data is completely separate from
Yes.
the UI.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
Indeed, because that's the power of the grids, and GQI you can really visualize whatever you want.
Yeah,
so
just grab the data and then
you grab the data.
UI is
Indeed.
here.
So that's our data. So let's now add that query to our grid visualization. I will just remove this one since we already know what it is. So I will just drag and drop this query on the grid visualization, and you will see by default something is popping up.
Yeah,
So-
probably indexes, right? Instances or something.
Yeah, almost. It are the order IDs. So
Ah.
in the first column we had the ID
So
of
the
our
first
order,
column.
and it took indeed that first column to visualize. And for each row of our table, you can see a little block is plotted on our grid visualization.
Right.
But of course, as you already mentioned, this is just IDs. It doesn't provide us a lot of information about
No.
the orders itself. We would, for example, like to see the customer name
Yes.
or the status or the price or the total amount. So we can fine tune that
Okay.
to provide the actual information. So let's take a look at how we can do that. So if you click the grid component, you can go to layout, and if you scroll to the bottom, you will see the template. So here we can really style that little template in our grid. We can fully customize it over here.
That is a template of the entire grid or one cell of the grid?
That's the template of one block.
One block in
So
your...
you can really specify how one block should be visualized. Of course, then apply it on all items within that grid layout.
Okay.
Okay. So if we click the edit button, then we will open the template editor. And you might already have seen this one because it has been used in a previous session to style the table. So here, the same principle. We can use the template editor to style
That
the block,
card or that block.
that card in your grid layout.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, so as you can see, it contains currently of 2 layers, just like some background color, and then the first order ID being plotted. But as already mentioned, we don't want to see the order ID. We, for example, want to see the total amount. So I think the column was called total. I changed this text from order ID to total. So now that total value is plotted at that position. I can already show you. If I click save, you will see all these total values are getting plotted right now. Okay.
Yeah.
So we can now further enhance that visualization.
Really make that card nice, the UI, everything in it. Yeah.
Indeed, I will just try to apply some styling and so on, just to show you how you can customize it. But if you have followed that previous session, you will probably be able to do that, customize it yourself, or do it like the way you want it. Just add some padding, and then we have our total amounts. I will now do the same for the customer name. So I will add the customer name. So
right, so you've got all of those tools in the editor.
yes, indeed, you've got all the tools. Okay, let's plot the customer name. All right, also align it in the middle.
Yeah, so it's nice.
Indeed, and 55 pixels from the top is okay. Maybe this one on 10. And this also, so it's really in the middle. It's a bit fine-tuning the visuals.
Well, yeah, but that's what UI is, eh?
Indeed.
Trying to get it exactly right.
Exactly.
On the dot, the pixel. No.
Pixel perfect.
Pixel perfect.
And then here the status. I will also align it. I will maybe put it a bit.
So like with things like status, where you might have like, let's say enabled, disabled, or up and down, would you then be able to add like some UI there, like a red button or a green button?
Yes.
Things like that is also an option.
For example, what we can do is we have orders from status paid or authorized. Maybe we can color the background color.
Yeah.
That would be cool. So yeah, we can do it in a second. So
okay, cool.
We will be able to do that. So this indeed, it's very important that your UIs give it at the blink of an eye. You can see what you need to see, and that's why coloring is extremely
coloring,
powerful.
shapes,
Indeed.
all of that is a very powerful tool.
Indeed. So yeah, we can do that. I'm just trying to fine tune some stuff here, and maybe a bit rounded corners. So for everyone following along, you can really go out. You can do whatever you want with this template editor. If you prefer a different color and so on, you can really decide how you want to visualize it.
Bright pink. Everyone following along? Fuchsia. Go for it.
So with this some clicks, we have already this. So
nice,
each order is now visualized. We have the price, we have the customer name, we have an indication if it's paid or authorized. So it's already something, but as already mentioned, we can maybe provide a color from our background, depending on if it's paid or authorized. So
it's already a lot better than just the first column, the index.
Indeed, it should indeed provide us the right information. So we can indeed then color the backgrounds based on that condition, which is a conditional case. So we can add that case. So when, for example, status is paid, we then show the rectangle, we change the color to, let's say, I will just pick like this blue color. You could choose whatever you want.
I think we both like blue.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's good.
Indeed. So now you can already see all these paid orders are indicated in blue. So their background is now colored in blue.
It's immediately visible. Yeah.
It's immediately visible. So we can now do the same thing for the authorized ones. So these are also colored in. We can add another conditional case to our background rectangle. For example, when status is authorized, authorized.
You picked the easiest word.
Yeah, indeed. And this time we will choose the color, maybe this dark blue, because we
more
like
blue.
So let's save it, and here you go. So we have
branding too. It's branding too.
It's branding. It's the data miner branding. So you can really see that these coloring are now applied,
Yeah.
and it's for us easier to consume this because with the blink of an eye you can see, okay, this
Yeah.
order is paid, this is authorized, and so on.
So it's really cool because we start in the beginning, it's just a JSON file with
Yeah.
plain data in it. But it could technically be any data source, could be like a CSV file or anything.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah, in this example now, we're using the JSON ad hoc data source to read it in.
Yeah.
But starting from that, we can make a nice grid layout
Yep.
that automatically populates it based on the JSON. A question.
Yes.
If I were to type something in that JSON and
Okay.
make it larger, at what point does this refresh? Like, it's probably not happening automatically,
No, indeed.
but if you would close it and open it up again, would it have the new data? Or
Yes, it will have the new data. But
Okay.
of course, it depends on your implementation of your ad hoc data source. If you apply caching and so on, it might not have it.
Yes.
But like it is now, it is using GQI, what means that if you refresh your dashboard or you
runs that
refresh
query
your,
again.
it runs that query, it fetches the JSON, it parses it, and it provides to the UI.
Yeah,
So
or the fetch data component action.
yeah,
Would that do the trick?
well, we don't need it basically, or indeed we could say we provide a fetch data component action, and
Yeah.
on clicking that
Like a
trigger,
refresh button or something.
that could also do the trick.
Cool.
Indeed.
Okay, yeah,
But
interesting.
there are some very cool stuff coming up with GQI real-time updates, for example.
Okay.
And this is something which would then not be needed anymore.
Amazing, yes.
Indeed. So maybe something for a later kata. You know?
Sure, I mean, you're always welcome.
Yeah,
You or
perfect.
someone else in the team, for sure.
Perfect.
Always
So,
interesting stuff.
indeed. Currently, this ad hoc data is just a snapshot fetching it, but
Yeah.
later on it will provide updates, and you can really, without the need of a refresh,
Yeah.
you can see all the
Wow,
updates
well,
coming.
exciting things to come up then. Excellent.
Yeah, indeed.
What, do you have anything else for us to show with this example? Or?
Yes, I can show
Okay.
you a bit on the configuration of the grid, because currently we have just our grids,
Yes.
but maybe you want to align the items, or you want to specify a fixed amount of columns, rows.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
also something we can do with the grid visual. So if you go to layouts,
Mm-hmm.
and if you scroll to advanced grid templates, you will see this UI. It lets you configure the amount of columns and the amount of rows you want to see.
Ah, yes.
And additionally, it has this little button which indicates if you want to scale the grid items to the fit of the width
Yes.
of our UI.
Now that is interesting, because everyone who's worked a lot with UI and forms and
Yeah.
WPF and all of that stuff, you know that based on the resolution of whatever device you're looking at,
Yes, and it's
grid layouts can go a little messy. So
Indeed.
this auto shapes it a bit. Or
this indeed makes sure that each item and at least all the items together will fit the full width of your
Yes.
component. So this is the auto combination with the scaling to fit option. But of course, if you would say, okay, I don't want to see the auto, I don't want to let it detect automatically how many items it want to show, I can provide a fixed amount of columns, for example. For
Right.
example, if I provide 4, then it will plot 4 columns. And I can do the same for the amount of rows, for example. Let's say I don't want to see 2 rows, I just want to see 1. I can just do like something like this. And you can see it will now create 1 row, 4 columns. And
but
it will
it's got a navigation mark at the bottom there. Okay.
And the reason for that is, of course, we have 8 orders, and it can only show 4 at the first page.
So
it
it's
needs,
clever enough.
It needs to provide a way, indeed, to let us navigate backwards, forwards to the next and
Nice.
previous orders.
Cool. There's a common thing with grids. When you use a grid UI, there's also something called a span. Is that in there or not yet? Where you could say like, oh, I want this card to be visible on 2 of the 4 cells.
But that's not really possible right now,
Okay.
because it's currently just like this, where you have your layouts, you
Yes,
define the
yes.
amount of columns, and each block is from the same size as the previous one.
Yeah, so you're using the template anyway, and that template has
Yeah.
been built with that shape in mind. I understand. Might get a little confusing if you try and change
Yeah.
that up.
Imagine, like in this case, you don't want to show 4 of them, you just want to show 2, then you just change the amount of items.
Yeah.
So you can really define how big or small these items should
Yeah,
look
and you
like.
can place multiple, I'm guessing, multiple of those grid layouts under each other. We saw that example there with the
Indeed.
videos and the audio signals. And
Also here, like you
Yes,
see
yeah.
different grid components under
Indeed,
each
yeah.
other. They have different configurations depending on,
That's
where-
great. Nice. Okay, well, unless there's something else you really wanted to show.
No, I think we are there for the grids. As I mentioned, I try to keep it short.
It's
to
good,
make
it's
sure
really
that
good.
it is really, it should
So,
be convenient to
what
build
should
it.
we tell the people watching to take a screenshot of to send in to get some DevOps points if you followed along? I guess this screen might not be bad, just showing an example of a grid layout that you've created. And go wild with the naming and the coloring. And we're interested to see what you do. If you have an example where you're using this in a production setup, like we saw the examples of that video and audio, which is awesome.
And it's
If you have one of those, feel free to send that one in as well. We're always happy to see what people are doing with all the technology we provide. Other than that, right, if you're watching from YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Getting a nice wink from marketing behind the camera every time. So I think we'll leave it at that.
yes.
Thank you very much for making some time again
Thank you.
to show us this. And for everyone watching, I'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye.
Bye.